Ek is op my werk toe en ek kyk hier weer, is kind of bietjie overcast, maar is nie koud nie, dis reënerige weer nie. It's just overcast, it's the beginning of summer, it's not cold, en ek sê vir my vrou, die is die weer wat ons gehet het toe ons surfwalks gehet het. I can remember some of my fondest memories of school is doing a surf walk. It was die kinders doen nie meer surf walks nie. En of miskien was dit net 'n Mitchells Plain skool ding, because ons het sommer geloop van die skool af beach toe en terug. It was the most some of the most amazing memories that I have of school. En toe maak ek het ook te sê vir wie het jy jou lus volgemaak, because die surfwalk en die lus het saam gegaan. Sy sê nee, lus is net half vol. And one thing that I remember when I was about going to school, especially primary school, is that I enjoyed going to school. Like, ek het nie ryk groot geraak nie. Ek het by Kerridale Primary School gegaan in die Rocklands. I was born in 81 and I started grade 1 of sub A when I was 5. So I started a little bit early. And that is why I finished school, and I started early, and I half the year they put me over. Yeah, it was good. But we wanted to go to school. We had excellent relationships with our teachers, because we only say to know for me that there was a time where the Standard 5s went on the camp or whatever you wanna call it, and there was children that was left behind. We had to wave at them as they went on their camp. And we had fun, man. Ons het skool toe gekom, het ons maar net die klas skoon gemaak. We'd sit on the mat and we'd sing hymns, you know. I come from that time where we used to pray in the morning. We used to pray the Our Father every morning, and we used to have basically Bible readings, scripture readings in the morning, and it anchored you, man. Whether you were a Christian or not, it anchored you, because what we were doing is we were doing a connection to morals, you know. There was no agenda of saying Christianity is superior or not. We weren't talking about being saved, but what we were talking about is being good people. You know, and I think that is what anchored us as people. It also it bound us together. Being able to sing a couple of hymns or whatever you want to call it, and have a prayer session. One thing that we were unapologetically Christian in primary school. That's what I can remember. I got such a lot of fond memories of being on school. I still remember my sub-A teacher, Mrs. Meyer, at Kerridale Primary. I remember my first friend that I made. My first friend's name was actually Randall. So Randall, I think your name is Randall Mars. Randall Mars. I'm almost certain that is his name. I'm gonna actually look him up on Facebook today. And he was my first friend. I remember introducing myself to him, being new, met my file sorts in my toughies, and we became friends. And it's funny enough that now my last friend that I've made, his name is also Randall. So good, it's a good thing. We came full circle. with the Randalls in my life. I remember the art teacher, Mr. Christopher B. Anyway, I remember Mrs. Crowing. She was the strictest teacher at our school, and I think she was the first lesbian that I was exposed to in my life. I'm certain she was a lesbian. But best memories, Mr. Hen, Mr. Sauls, yeah, those were the teachers that I remember from primary school. I think Mr. Sauls became principal in the end. And the nice part was myself, my younger sister that's passed away now, my older sister, Natalie. We all went to the same primary school. My elder sister ended up going to Mondale High, and I ended up living by my daddy. So I ended up going to Voortrekker High. The nice part about the primary school was just before we were supposed to leave to go to high school, they introduced standard 6, or what you would know as grade 8. So at primary school, I went to grade 8, which meant that I moved to high school, grade 9 or standard 7. I went to Voortrekker High in Wynberg, or Kenilworth, however you want to look at it. And I think that was the best move that my dad could have done, because it at the time they were considered to be a Model C school. In fact, fun fact, when I joined in standard 7, we were only the second generation of children of color going to that specific school, which means that the standard 6s that went to standard 7, I think they were the first or second, I don't know, maybe the third generation. But there were still classes above us that was completely white. There was no integration. And we were exposed to what I consider to be a higher standard of education. The nice part that I learned from a school like Voortrekker at the time was school pride. We sang our school song. We had our creed that we would say with every whatever meeting or whatever you want to call it on a Monday when they do announcements. They taught us a level of pride in our country, in our school, in our uniform. I mean, they were very strict. On summer uniform, winter uniform, you couldn't wear a short sleeve shirt with a tie because it didn't have a button. You couldn't wear a short sleeve shirt with a blazer. You had to treat your blazer with respect. If you ended up putting your blazer just there, laying on the floor, that would warrant a sanction. That would warrant a call it? You could get detention for that, because your blazer contained the school emblem. You needed to fold your blazer up neatly and put it down. We were, I mean, that time there wasn't things of, oh, my haircut is my culture, and we had to cut our hair. We had to shave. In fact, if we didn't shave, they would dry shave us. And it taught us discipline. It taught us pride in ourselves. I mean, we used to walk around saying we are Voortrekker. And I know that is lacking, not in all, but in many, I would say, colored schools. I would say one thing that the apartheid government did very, very well is create a sense of identity within its populace, in its citizenship, and across the board, because they taught white people that they were better than any other race purely because they were white. and they believed it and they loved it until today. You will have white people living in a shack and they would still believe that purely based on their whiteness, they are better than people of color. Morally, their values, they would think they're cleverer, and they would make people of color believe that they are inferior. It is just what they did, and till today, that sense of pride is still installed in me. I was at the time, I was in high school at the time when we were adopting the new I was at high school when we were adopting the new anthem, and we were practicing that anthem day in and day out, and we started developing a pride in the anthem, and I think that is slowly being eroded away. If I look at what the Model C schools are looking like at the moment, they've lost their identity. Integration has made it difficult for them to maintain a sense of pride, because there's people that come in that is not proud of themselves, and it filters through. I'm not saying I'm against integration, please don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is, and this is what I'm seeing in our schools at the moment in Kraaifontein, is 10 years ago when we joined, when we sent the children to our schools, and let me tell you, Jackie School, the primary school, they have maintained their standard, even increased their standard over the last years. I'm so proud of Fani Tron, because of that, the sense of pride you have coming from the children, the sense of identity, and the maintenance of the standards it's commendable. And you need to elevate yourself to the school standard. You don't expect the school to lower their standard to you just because you're not used to it. I completely accept that, right? And then you have the high school, which over the years have just slowly but surely eroded their standards to the point where I don't see Zaki going to that high school. It's a fact. I'm sorry. When I hear that every second day there's a different type of fight happening, and this is due to what I would say integration. I've got kids that is not from Kraaifontein that is coming in, and let me tell you, the parents do it thinking they're going to send their children to our school in Kraaifontein out of their area, and it's going to improve their child's chances in life. They're paying increased school fees. They're paying a higher rate for uniform. They're paying more, thinking that is going to raise the children's standard. And you know what is happening? The children and the parents are bringing their low standards to our schools. I'm sorry. Because if you have the principal having to have a meeting with all the parents to talk about nobody's paid school fees, that you cannot pay the extra teachers because no one's paying school fees. It's terrible. And it started with letting things slip. You let the children come with all sorts of colored socks to the school. That's where it starts. You allow the children to have 150 different types of haircuts. There's no pride in the uniform. There's no respect for the teachers. And let me tell you guys, it comes from home. I'm sorry. To the point now where if I look at the high school in our area, it is no different to the high schools that I come from. And guys, if you want to take offense when I say that places where I come from, the standards is a bit lower, get offended. I don't mind. Alright, if you want to have a victim mentality, whenever somebody says something bad about your area, oh, you're looking down on my area, that's on you. I wasn't taught that way. I was taught that I should be the example. I should live a higher standard. If somebody says your people from Kraaifontein is violent, then I mustn't respond with violence. I mustn't respond with violence because that's going to prove their point. And now we have become those parents that is now having to send their children outside of our area to go to school. Ek moet nou by Brackenfell gaan soek. Ek moet nou gaan soek in die Durbanville. Because why? Ethan unfortunately is now in the midst of that students, of that school with a dwindling standards. And although I'm doing my darndest to teach him about a higher sense of self, I cannot deny the fact that he's spending 8 to 9 hours a day there. It's sad, it's tragic. Because I remember the interview that I had to do when I wanted to put Isaiah into the high school. I had to go for an interview. I had to explain to them why we are on the standard that the school must accept us. Now you have students in the school who's gang affiliated, who's smacking teachers, and having people from the area come and wait for children after school. You've got children coming in with all sorts of colored socks and shoes. You've got children who have got no sense of pride in their school. I'm sorry. And it's sad. And now what do? I have now become that parent that wants to put their child into a school in Brackenfell, a school in Kuilsriver, a school in Durbanville, because now I need to align the school with where I want to be in life. Higher. But now what is the parents going to say? The people from Kraaifontein come and put their children in the schools, and they're filling up the school, and we don't have space. We live in the area, it's now the same thing. I have now become the people that I criticized. Because we can't. The standards has dropped too much. Standard has dropped way too much. But maybe this is the problem that everyone is having. I can name a few schools in the southern suburbs who was the benchmark for standard. When I went to school, I'm talking about the 90s. Swanswyk was one. Wynberg Girls, Witterbome High, Voortrekker High, Plumstead High, Norman Henselwood. Those were the schools that was considered good schools. I don't know if I can say the same. And how do you keep the people out that you don't want? You raise the school fees, you make it unaffordable. That's how they do it. That is how they're raising standards at places as well, like Goudinispa. Die plekke se rates is deur die dak, het maak nie sin nie. But that's the only way now you're going to keep people out, is by raising the standard. I posted a video the other day of matric ball cars that's going to be hired or whatever. It's 2,500 rand an hour, and there were like 5 people that were saying, "No, it says just," in the comment section. It says just. It's the fucking deer. And I'm thinking, exactly. We don't want you to be hiring these cars. If you are comfortable in the comment section to come with us, then it's not for you. Because we've been, I've gone to a few matric balls where you go into the area and die 2 uncles wat nou gesyp is wil nou hê jy moet gou vir hulle ry na nog 'n location toe. No, we want you to drive now from here. We want to go to Magic Forest because we want to go take. Hulle dink is 'n wedding. Maar hulle is gesyp, jy kan nie met hulle praat nie. Hulle wil niks hoor nie. So what do? You price it in such a way that die mense gaan vir jou sê nee, is te duur. Is te duur. I'm sorry. Because generally when people pay more for something, they attach more value to it. They say, okay, weet jy wat, ons het betaal vir die breakaway 6,000 vir die weekend, ons kan nie die mense se TV breekie. Ons kan nie die mense se TV breekie. Verstaan jy? Of jy is by 'n kampplek en jy die mense wat langs aan jou is so gesyp. Jy kan sien die mense kon ek een keer uit. Nou wil hulle by jou tent kokkelop. Nou sien hulle tomatiesous. Kan ons op ietsie van hulle tomatiesous kry? Ek het dit al experience al. Dit mense wat so syp. Het raak nou jou probleem dat hulle gesyp is. Hulle kon nou like by die verkeerde tent in. Because why? Hulle is nou so gesyp. So you need to block them at the door with the prices. Unfortunately. A lot has changed. A lot has changed. I'm telling you, a lot has changed from the surf walks that I used to go to. And cleaning my classroom. Rolling the mat up and dusting the mat off. In the classroom and putting the crayons where it's supposed to be. To where we are now. Where children can't comply with the haircut standard of a school. And you've got parents that back them up. Back in the day when it was teachers, parent-teacher meetings, children weren't allowed. And you used to be on your nerves because as jou paal nou by die huiskos is binne in jou moer, you are going to be getting a hiding if you're not in line. Now the teachers must be scared. Because the children is entitled, the parents is even more entitled. The attitude of the parents now is, I send my child to school so you can teach them discipline. That is why I pay these high fees, because maybe you can succeed where I have failed. That is the approach. And beware if you say that my child is this or my child is that. Then I'm going to come down on you. And my child knows it. It is what it is. That is my rant for this month, for this Tuesday. I hope you guys can relate. Please engage with me in the comment section as normal.